honor to introduce our next guest, Kamora Jones. You guys have seen her here on Portal to Ascension a few times. So let me just quickly read Kamora's bio, and then Alan will take it over from there. So Kamora Laroyce Jones, Art Soldier 77, was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, November 3rd, 1977, and has been creating art since the age of 3. Kamora still lives and works in Vegas. Most of her youth was spent learning to draw from life and imagination and visualizing Christian mysticism and spirituality. In 2017, Kamora and her wife had a few significant metaphysical experiences. Previously, she started remembering a vision from her childhood, which led her to begin studying concepts in reincarnation and consciousness. From a very young age, Kamora was always exposed to concepts in higher consciousness, although lucid transcendent dreaming and astral projection. After having the experience in 2017, she was able to open up to the energy that brought her to where she is today. The Art of Transmigration series is directly inspired by those experiences in Akashic reading, other spiritual experience meditations, channeling, and trances that help her understand the importance of the soul's journey. She prefers sketching her concepts with graphite on paper or digitally with her Wacom Syntec in Clip Studio Paint, Adobe Photoshop, Coral Painter, or Procreate. Graphite sketches are always digitized, edited, colored, and manipulated to create the final piece. Quite often, Kamora will draw and paint digitally to keep the lines and values of each composition harmonious and refined. Kamora works with many analog and digital visual art mediums, including 3D modeling, sculpting, and motion graphic tools like Adobe After Effects. During the week, Kamora also works as a senior graphic artist for an international gaming manufacturer. Kamora has always been inspired by metaphysicals, new age spiritual art, psychedelic visual artists, and the pre-Raphaelite William Blake, and many other classical and modern visual storytellers working on various mediums. You can view Kamora's transmigration art on Instagram or Facebook at ArtSoldier77. You can view art from a few of Kamora's other art projects on her website, artsoldier77.com. Thank you very much for being here, Kamora. Really appreciate it. And Alan, I will toss this over to you.
Well, just a brief, because we want to get to the art. And Kamora, are you doing a presentation, Kamora, or is it a conversation?
Yeah, it's a presentation, and then I'm leaving about 15 minutes for a conversation afterwards, if you'd like.
Great. So I just have to say, when I found Kamora's art, it was on some thumbnail somewhere I saw, it just hit me. It hit me in the third eye. It's like, who is this? What is this saying? And because it was downloading so much information from these drawings. So it was like, you know, people talk in light language, but this was a visual expression of light frequencies. And I felt as if it went right into me. So I said, I have to find out who this is. Who is Art Soldier 77? And it was great to meet you in Las Vegas. And I just think this is the next level of art, and she has so much to say about creativity. She was one of the stars of our hybrid program, our show that we did on Portal to Ascension. She's coming up in the Starseed program. So this is art and creativity that is initiatory. For me, it takes you to another level of cognitive reality, and that's why I'm so happy you're with us today. Okay, Kamora. Thanks. It's all yours.
Thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I still have an hour, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let me really quick here. One moment. Let's do like this, and let's do like this right here.
I know it takes a lot to prepare, and we appreciate this because it's worth it.
All right. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. So thanks so much for joining in. I have my presentation timed out pretty well. I'm Kamora Jones. I'm going to share a few things with you. I'd like you to feel free to disagree with everything I have to say. But if you're down for a creative journey and learning a little bit about yourself and about your creative potential and the options you have as a soul, as a creative soul, please come on the journey with me. When I started on my spiritual journey, I was very young, and I was heavily in religion. And the cool thing about me is that I was blessed enough for my artistic development to evolve alongside my spiritual development. So I'm going to share a little bit about how I used my creative expression to evolve myself, to evolve my soul, and to learn a lot about who I am and how I fit into consciousness and how I fit into the world. So I was steeped in Christian religion. I was born into it. My family all came from the South, very Baptist. When I got into the Christian church, it was 2000. I think I was 12 years old or something like that. And I was fascinated with this idea of the blood of Christ and how we're born into sin and all these different things. And I didn't exactly vibe with it. I thought it was a very sort of constrained system. I had an extremely hard time with it. And but what I was able to do as a creative individual, as a creative child, is I was able to draw it. A lot of these drawings I'm going to show were done like in my 20s, but I did a lot of stuff before that too to kind of lead up to this as well. So everyone always asks me where I came from and how I got to where I am. Well, here we are. So I was fascinated with this idea. The Apostle Paul in the book of Ephesians talks about the Christian faith in accordance with pieces of armor. And so I was fascinated with this idea of these forces of darkness, these heavenly realms, these different battles that are going on between over the soul of individuals, the battles over whether or not you're going to be a slave to sin or a slave to righteousness. And so I sought out to try to illustrate some of these to help myself understand it, because I found that to be the only thing really interesting about the Christian faith in general. Now, I bought into it from an emotional standpoint because I felt like I had no other options. And so this was kind of where I took it. I took it into this space of sort of trying to visualize the battle. I would oftentimes ask God to show me what that looks like, how to visualize it. And what I often got subconsciously is that I should try to draw it. I should try to visualize it myself. And that there's nothing wrong with that. And that there was understanding in writing it out, in drawing it out, in speaking it out, and in understanding your connection with it. So it was creativity from the very beginning that inspired me to continue to move forward and to try to understand who I am, not just who I am in reference to religion or predefined doctrine, but who I am within myself. So I sought out to continue to draw. Some of these are pretty dark. This is what I got out of it. A lot of young people nowadays don't necessarily vibe too much with traditional religion. There are a lot of reasons why. I believe that one of those reasons why is because it doesn't provide enough space for evolution, for individuated evolution, in my opinion. Now, this isn't to say that I think Christianity or any religion is bad. Everything is useful if you connect with it, if you resonate with it. But for me, I saw a world of darkness, and I saw this potential for individuals to completely lose everything if they weren't willing to align with the doctrine. This idea that we must accept the blood of Christ and become like the bride of Christ, I thought was a very beautiful concept. I still think it's a very beautiful concept. But I also find it interesting that the emphasis is put on something outside of us when we ourselves have a fundamental connection with Source, with higher consciousness. And so I played around with this dichotomy between light and dark, between being a slave to sin and a slave to righteousness. And it fascinated me. Now, 2005, I was also exploring other things, right? I was exploring ideas about different dimensions. I was fascinated with it. Of course, being exposed to different media and different ideas, different stories, different individuals, this idea of dimensions and different spaces that one could dwell in was forever fascinating to me. Also, at the time, I was getting kind of interested in ancient cultures and what, this idea of, I wonder what Christianity might have taken from ancient cultures and how the fact that ancient cultures in general all shared amongst themselves ideas, religious concepts, technology, and whatever else you can think of. I was trying to understand how I thought about the world. Yet, on the other hand, I had religion saying that I needed to continue to focus a specific way, a certain way that was very sort of linear and limiting to me. That being said, my soul, higher consciousness, my guides were guiding me to use that, to understand how I could use those concepts in conjunction with that was coming out from inside me. When we talk about light language, what was fascinating to me and what's still fascinating to me is the idea of speaking in tongues. In Pentecost, the disciples were given the ability to speak in different tongues. And when I hear people speaking light language, it just makes me think of my days in the church and how speaking in tongues was sort of a sign that the Holy Spirit was inside of you. So this was an illustration I actually did for a church that I worked out for about 7 years. And I would actually do weekly illustrations. Pastor was a really cool guy. And I would do weekly illustrations and they would put them on the overhead and not on the overhead, they had a big screen at this church. And they would be printed on the bulletin. So people would actually collect the bulletins as, these art pieces that could be collected. There's also the idea of the Holy Spirit through doctrine. This idea that the written word or the word of God as it's been dictated to men is of divine origin, but we must also understand that what is given to men is basically under the will of men in how they want to sort of share that with the public. And so even if something is inspired, it doesn't matter how clear the channel was, it doesn't matter how seamless the information was delivered to an individual, regardless of whether it's New Age doctrine or whether it's religious doctrine or any sort of other dogma or anything like that, we must understand that it's going through human hands, and human hands are going to put their ideas on whatever it is they're trying to transmit to others and to themselves. I did this piece, Spiritual Mapping, back in 2009, and it's a pretty big piece. It's actually a canvas, and it has these different people at different points. The elevated portion of the cross that you see here, if you can kind of see my cursor here, those are people that are basically in the church and they're looking down on those who aren't in the church. A little judgmental, right? So if you look over here, you can kind of see people kind of falling off the edge, but you see people up here who are robed, right? Robed in the blood of Christ. And they have the ability to help those people down here, but oftentimes for those who have been in the church or for those who are still in the church who are listening to me right now, you'll understand that there's politics within the church and there's sort of a pride in being in that. There's sort of a looking down on people who aren't in the church, the people who aren't in the fold. The result of my obsession of dwelling in the land of the righteousness and the wicked, trying to find the proper equation to soul perfection through my own mind and heart, embattled within the dichotomy of accepting my authentic identity and being fit for heaven, I felt broken, tired, angry, confused, and hopeless. Was I fighting the right battle? So I came to this place of trying to figure out if this is even my battle to face in the first place. I mean, what are the mechanics of the spiritual realm? I was fascinated with this idea of the spiritual realm, this idea of darkness and light, this idea of how we are able to continue to, in God's grace, if we can sort of align with Him and sort of get rid of ourselves. And so I found that the focus was not about the betterment of the self, but the sort of, letting go and being one with Christ. And that kind of got in the way of my personal development. So this is where life got interesting. I started realizing that I could define my own ideas about spirituality, looking within to find truth through the composite ideas of my experiences. So I started developing boundaries and stopped treating myself like a dog who was always looking for a master. This is advice I would give to anyone. And what that entailed was I had to realize this is my journey, that as a human being, I can hurt people, I can help people. and that I have to be willing to be better. And I had quite a few people in my life at the time who helped me understand this. And I kind of felt like I'd been led astray. I felt like there had been a lot of people who manipulated me, but at the end of the day, I couldn't blame anyone but myself. I couldn't blame the devil any longer. My hope is that people would stop blaming the devil and start looking at themselves as being the greatest enemy to society and to each other. One moment. So I started looking at these battles that I had learned about within the scripture, and I started thinking, well, maybe these aren't my battles. Maybe indeed these are battles that were around long before me. And maybe I should consider them to be something that I can use from a metaphorical standpoint. But I shouldn't assume that these shadowy battles, these shadowy religious battles, these battles between doctrine, between religious aristocrats, that they have anything to do with me at all or my mission on earth. You know, the soul has the ability to dwell wherever it wants to dwell. And I think it's important to understand that you are what you want to be. And I don't think this is just like a frou-frou kind of idea that, you know, one could just sort of believe in. I think it's a reality. If you want to be under the thumb of a religious God, you know, a religious God or a tyrant of any kind, or someone who tells you that you're not enough, then you won't be enough, and you'll dwell in those spaces. You'll dwell in these sort of ghettos of fear. But I had to realize that, and it took some people to really kind of shake me up. One of those people was a atheist friend of mine who really doesn't believe in anything other than himself. But it was really great that he kind of took me under his wing and helped me to see a little clearer that things are my decision. The soul needs that space to develop, needs that space to understand its position and what it can potentially work with. You can choose to come out of darkness and into all your creative opportunities. You can choose to come into the light of that. You can choose to accept the fact that maybe a particular doctrine or idea or style of thinking just isn't for you. You can accept the fact that you may not be the right person for that book, for that channel, for that philosophical doctrine. So where this took me is, this basically took me to this place of trying to understand how humans could get to a point of evolution. Obviously, a lot of people in this conference have been talking about this sort of utopian ideals, or, you know, making humanity better, trying to find a better system for ourselves. And so once my wife and I left the church, which we left the church about 9 years ago, I think it was. We've been married for 12 years, so we left the church I think it was about 9 years ago. Something sort of started speaking to me, this idea of, why can't we be better? Why can't we do better? Why can't we do more? Why is our technology so, why is it so limited? Why is medical science, you know, why does it break people? This isn't to say all medical science is bad. It's just that, you know, you go to the hospital and you get a bill, and the bill can break you. It's like if the fall didn't break you, the medical bill will, right? So I started thinking about this idea of humanity and this sort of utopian idea of Earth, and I started sort of visualizing it and what the architecture and technology could be like. And, you know, very sci-fi, very sort of sci-fi fantasy, and just sort of thinking, you know, really big sky, what we call in graphic art and in entertainment, we call it big sky ideas. And so just kind of thinking about it, it made me think, wow, you know, I wonder why we're not more evolved. And this doesn't mean that it has to be like any of these things I'm drawing here, or anything anyone has ever imagined, so to speak. For the most part, we're probably going to have to work with what we have, which is a good thing. But the question remained, how do we get to this point? How do we get to this place where we create these sustainable environments that are not just sustainable for humans, but sustainable for all creatures on the planet? And I started thinking, and something came to me concerning the spirit and the soul, and why we have such a hard time. And I kind of came to the impression and understanding that maybe we have such a hard time because we don't understand who we are. And when I say we don't understand who we are, it's this idea of we don't understand what the soul is. We don't understand that. And so around 2016, I started remembering things from my past. I had this vision, this sort of, I didn't know if it was a pre-birth vision or if it was a vision from my youth, but these ideas in 2016 started coming to me, these spiritual ideas about reincarnation, ideas about the soul, ideas about the soul's journey. Around the time I had read Dr. Michael Newton's book, Journey of Souls, and that really spoke to me as well. In 2017, things really opened up, and I started sort of exploring this idea of the mechanics of the soul and consciousness. And I always thought it was fascinating in the church how so many people didn't really have an understanding of how the soul actually works, and just weren't even creative enough to really speculate on it. And so I draw all these images and stuff, and people would be like, well, why are you drawing that? Why are you so fixated on that? Why are you so hyper-focused on that? And it sort of disappointed me, because I'm like, well, we're spiritual people. Aren't you supposed to be more creative? You're talking about how spiritual you are and how you connected with God you are. You're talking about this creative idea of this God that exists in another dimension, that has the power over all creation, and you're not creative enough to visualize what that is. And so I think these ideas about what the soul is and the composition of the soul and how it connects with the body started really coming to me. And I felt them seeping into my soul. And I felt like the stuff was being channeled into my mind and focused into my mind. And so I started drawing it out, understanding the idea that the ego is a part of the human construct. So if you're talking about the soul coming into the body, the ego is, kind of a part of the human persona, not necessarily the personality. I think of the soul as the personality, as the core personality. But the ego is a part of that as well, and it's something that we use to have human experiences and to interact with each other. So I also started studying this idea of these metaphysical spaces, or hyperspace, if you will, and this sort of field of vision. When you talk about like the light spectrum and how our vision is kind of limited, this idea of what those spaces may look like, these spaces where we share energy. And what those sort of streams of energy and those streams of consciousness, those seamless streams, may actually look like. This is how the transmigration series started. These are some of the first few images that came out. I was very fascinated with this idea of a system of consciousness, in the sense of like a programmatic system, trying to figure out what the data structures probably look like, what the programming language of the soul would look like, the information that's being transmitted from source back to the soul. And so I was just very interested in trying to visualize this for myself, and it seemed like a lot of people started connecting with it. I actually drew this image very shortly after my first, after what I call my first real ego death, bona fide metaphysical experience. And you can see back in 2017, I'm already starting to put light language sigils into my work. Now, of course, I'd seen people doing this online on Instagram and such, but yeah, it all made sense to me. That experience that I had was very transcendent, and I felt like some of the information was being embedded in symbols that were also being embedded in my light body. If you look here, even back in 2017, this idea of these higher dimensional beings who were communicating with humans, trying to get humans to evolve, was right there. It was there the whole time. I'm going to flip through a couple of these a little bit, because I do have quite a few I want to share. I want to share some of the new work as well. This idea of the soul being faceted, being multidimensional, that the soul isn't just this thing that's going to go to heaven or hell, that there are components, there are mechanisms, there are connections that can facilitate the ability or inability for us to evolve, and to conversely, evolve humanity. it isn't so much a collective thing as it is an individual thing. It's behavioral, right? So you can't just assume that we're going to evolve and that we're like all evolving. Of course, we're raising vibration purely from an informational standpoint, because information is shared more than ever. But we have to understand that this is behavioral. And if you want people to change, everybody has to be willing to change. But they have to be willing to do it on their own terms. So this idea that you have different levels of soul development really resonated with me as well. This idea that, you have baby souls that are born, that come into human bodies, and you also have very old souls who come into human bodies, and that we're sort of all mixing it up here in this earth dimension that we're in right now. And dimension is actually a bad word, but in this current reality frame that we're in, we're all kind of mixing it up, right? And at any given time within our timeline, we are, kind of trying to find our way. And so you got these new souls coming in. These new souls have ideas and philosophies. The old souls have ideas and philosophies. Every once in a while, people talk about how the young people they're gonna like change us, but you have like young people who are actually old souls who come in with old ideas as well. And so I'd like to just put that out there that, not all the young people coming in are gonna save us. Some of them are just trying to hold on to old ideas. So there was this idea of mastery and what that means, and what sort of doorways and portals each individual in their individuated experiences would need to go through in order to evolve to this place where they either stop incarnating or they're able to actually add something to the human experience, or shall we say, leave something behind. So when it comes to artistic development, this is kind of what it's all about. Once again, I was also in the space of, kind of looking at angels again, and trying to figure out, okay, well, what are these beings, what would these beings who could share information with us about how we can evolve our society, how we can evolve ourselves? What would they be like? Are they angels, in the very traditional sense of the word? Are they energy beings? Are they higher dimensional beings? Are they throne beings? Are they seraphim? Are they cherubim? For those of you who know about Ezekiel's vision or Isaiah's vision, or any of the visions in the book of Revelation, or in any of the other spiritual texts. The idea of angels in spiritual texts are very different from what was actually developed visually during the Renaissance period and during other art movements as well. So this one on the left here, universal language, I was indeed, trying to look at this idea of what the language of consciousness is. What does it mean? What is it? How do we communicate? How does consciousness and source communicate with us? How do our guides communicate with us? And once again, what is the construct? What does it mean? What does it all mean? Does it matter if we evolve? Does it not matter if we evolve? This piece right here, Shadow of Your Wings, was kind of fascinating to me because it's very much like a Christ-like construct. This idea of, power, confidence, compassion, protection, love, fear, hate, disappointment, anger, sadness, passion, vision, peace, war, identity, immoral, blasphemous, adulterous, murderous, abusive, manipulative, psychopathic, joyful, peaceful, patient, kind, good, gentle, faithful, controlled, brave, visionary, adventurous, attractive, sexy, intelligent, popular, independent, victim, sellout, failure, winner, leader. Look in the mirror. Who are you? This to me, as I was on this path of enlightened learning through this sort of higher dimensional connection I had with these guides who were guiding me, I felt like they were sort of evolving my understanding that I had developed through Christian learning as well. This idea that Christ wasn't necessarily talking about this idea of heaven and hell, but talking about this idea of how we could evolve ourselves, first by looking in the mirror and then becoming the sacrifice unto ourselves so that we can be our best selves. So coming here to earth to do work, not just coming here to earth to consume, to use, to manipulate each other. I'm going to share a few of these here. Feel free to look on. Once again, you can go to my Instagram page, and you can actually go all the way back to the beginning of the series on Instagram. My Facebook page, unfortunately, does not go all the way back to the beginning of the series, because I started my Facebook page a little bit later. Also on my website, artsoldier77.com, I'm going to be turning that into a transmigration page. So I'll have everything on there as well. If you look here, you have this idea of this blaming universe on the right here. This idea that the universe is looking back at you, you are looking into the void and the universe is looking back at you. And this is a symbiotic relationship that we have, where the universe is asking us, will you accept your mission? Will you take on your archetype? Will you do the work that you agreed to do? Now, some believe that you're going to do the work no matter what. It's embedded in you, it's programmed into you. I believe that is that it's a choice. Some people don't really follow through. Some people get here and it's really hard, right? You get into a body, that body belongs to a culture, that culture belongs to a family. You may find that family is a really hard place for you to evolve in any respect. You may find later on that you get married to someone who isn't as supportive. You may find that this is so difficult that you don't want to deal with it anymore. But might I put forth the idea that you have a chance to figure out who you are just by looking at what you like, what you love, what you've always been passionate about. And you can start from there and you can move forward. And maybe you can develop something that helps you. It isn't just about helping everyone else. If individuals don't change within themselves, then we don't have anything. And so 2018, these ideas, these hyperdimensional, higher dimensional beings, these intelligent beings who developed a very sustainable culture, this idea started coming to me. I started drawing it out. These were the first two that kind of came out, and everybody really connected with these. And something said to me, well, you need to kind of keep doing these. You need to keep doing these alien, higher dimensional beings who are most likely angels, who are most likely, something else. You need to keep drawing these. You need to keep kind of sharing these with people. They're speaking to people. This control mechanisms, this piece was, this was actually a piece I did for my first giveaway. One of the people who won the giveaway, and anybody who knows what giveaways, I actually give many prizes away. They had this idea, they wanted to do something with a higher dimensional being and a human, and sacred geometry symbols or connective symbols. And this was sort of like how this came out. This just came out of me. It was a very easy image to produce. It's not a very complex image for those who can draw, they'll know what I mean. But it worked really, really well from an energetic standpoint and from a compositional standpoint. And so this, I think, was sort of the beginning of my current paradigm of understanding. And once again, you can sort of look at these beings. What they're trying to do is they're basically trying to help humans evolve. And they're trying to do it through their technology, which actually the technology uses some metaphysical concepts, kind of mixed with sort of this next level technology as well. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I'm actually making a comic book right now, a graphic novel, and so I'll talk about it a little more in that. But what I'd like to put forth to you is, for you to go ahead and read some of the writings that I've also channeled to go along with the images. They are on Instagram and on Facebook. Read some of the writings, you'll get an idea of how the story actually works. This idea of this being who's becoming a transmigrator, trying to figure out how to put information into humans, how to put positive ideas into humans so that, within our time frame, we can actually, those ideas can take root and help us to create better technology and to create a better way of living. A sort of covert methodology. I'll put forth the idea and I'll just give you a little hint. In the story, it doesn't end up working up like that. So this is another one. If you look at this data stream on the right here, this kind of came out of one of my other experiences that I had. This idea that we're always being fed information from higher consciousness. Their technique is called projectionosis. This is sort of a map of how it works, how to think about it from a philosophical standpoint. So yeah, I'd like you to think about how you fit into this human experience. And one of the ways to do that is through art, is through drawing it, writing it, speaking it, thinking about it, thinking about this space you find yourself in, this earth space that you find yourself in, thinking about what you have to offer. I still work a day job. So in conjunction with that, and of course my day job is an art production job. So I'm an artist, I make symbols and characters and stuff like that. But I still have to make time for this work. I think this work is very important. as you saw from my Christian art, I've been dabbling in these ideas ever since I was a kid. And so this is how I know this is my work. And you'll know your work because it's always been with you. It's always been there. It's like a, you know, it's like a wart on your skin. It's just always there. It speaks to you through the ages of your development, through your paradigm shifts. It talks to you. It lets you know that you need to speak up. You need to not only speak up to others, but you need to speak up to yourself. That things aren't going to change unless you do your part. And so, as many are doing, I'm just doing my part. And I'd like to encourage everyone to think about these ideas like the Akashic records, you know, think about ideas like reincarnation, think about ideas of, you know, what we really need to do from a societal standpoint. What do we need to do to move forward? How can we become more compassionate? How can we use the energy that we share amongst ourselves, these energy constructs, these light language sigils? How can we use all this to endow each other with greater energy, to inspire each other? How can you encourage someone who's close to you to pick up the gauntlet, to pick up their weapon of peace, the weapon of peace, and to use their gifts and to put them out into the world? How can you encourage someone to be better, to do better, to learn, to go train, to use their voice, to use their hands to help others? The more we understand about the soul, the more we understand about who we are individually and collectively. The more we understand that the soul is limitless and that we are having these life experiences over and over again. The more we understand that the soul is this intelligent being that is not limited by space or time. It isn't limited by political ideas. It isn't limited by the color of your skin. It isn't limited by where you come from, where you've been. It isn't limited by your disabilities. It is only limited by your inability or ability to believe in your potential. So yeah, so go check out my work, be inspired. What I'd like you to do, a little bit of homework, is to draw or paint something and share it with me. And if you can do that, that would be fantastic. And let me see if I can actually stop sharing my screen here.
Oh, thank you. Oh, let me just get back in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, this is a deeper journey that you've taken us on than you did last time, which kind of speaks to the deepening of your art. I mean, where it really comes from. So what's your vision now? I mean, well, so much to talk about here and some great comments in the chat about how much people love your work. But so this is, for me, it's so strong because they're sort of, you're drawing these beings that are almost tangible, that I can sense, but now you've given them form. So how do these beings come to you? I mean, through your art, are you a window, or do they appear before you do, or sense them before you do the images? And
the idea is that, as you can, you know, as I took you through the process, the idea is that this all kind of came to me over time. The way that I access the information now is that I have a sort of trance technique that I use, that's sort of trance meditation kind of, where because I have a seamless connection post, you know, my experiences in 2017, I basically just close my eyes, I look into the void, I send an intention out, and what I get back sometimes is I get the words to the piece, or I get a shadowy image, more of a silhouette or a construct of what the composition could actually look like. The beings themselves, as you can see, I kind of sketched around with them for a little while back in 2018, kind of before I got to where, 2017, 2018, before I got to where I wanted. And it kind of landed on that sort of archetypal, you know, sort of image with the big eyes and stuff. I mean, it really resonated with me, but with the difference of showing the connectivity of the energy and the network going on within the body of each being, almost as sort of a guide for how humans should think about our energy bodies and how humans should think about how we process information and share information amongst ourselves. So all of it to me has always been very educational in understanding the fact that what you say, what you do, how you manipulate others, how you help others is all a part of this large network being shared. So even the images themselves are educational pieces and activated sort of energy pieces. So all of it's kind of very purposeful, actually.
Yeah, they are activating just looking at them and feeling the encoding in one's body. The other great thing, and we'll come back to all this, is the idea of creativity, because you had some really deep understandings of the creative process, not just about your art, but everyone's creative process is a deepening of their soul connection. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's really important to see yourselves. Of course, okay, so everyone talks about this idea of collective consciousness and how we're all connected and how we're all one. But remember, you are an individuated unit of consciousness having an experience in a human body. Your soul comes into your body and it fuses with your body. It connects with the networks of your brain and you become a part of it. But you're not just becoming a part of it, just so you're like another body on Earth. There's plenty of bodies on Earth. Okay, you have something to explore. You have something you're trying to find out about yourself and about your fundamental connection with source. If you think about source or God, whatever you want to call it, as being this sort of creative machine, this sort of potential, this machine of potential. Machine is a really bad word, but a being of potential who creates potential for individuals to explore themselves within the mind of source, then you start to realize that you have a lot of work to do. And that work isn't supposed to be this hard, work and this stuff that's supposed to, just kind of make you grind your teeth. It's supposed to be natural. And so if you can just look at what you love playing the piano, you like singing, you like dancing, you like martial arts, you like administrative arts, right? You really have to be willing and brave enough to look at that and to move forward in that, get some training, go to college, whatever you need to do an apprenticeship, so that you can leave something behind for other humans who are coming behind you. And so we all have skin in the game. You can't just assume that someone else is going to save the earth. Please don't assume these beings, even if they are downloading information, remotely, or they're here downloading information, or they have a hyper connection, with you. You still have to be willing to do the work. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to come and save your butt. You know what I'm saying? You need to do the work yourself. So, yeah.
Your process is like a dialogue in a sense. I mean, it's coming to you and yeah, you're conversing in a sense, it feels like, with the creative downloads. It's like talking to you and you're creating it, and then it's a back and talk about that dialogue of creative exchange.
So, okay, so first part of this is skill, right? So you gotta do the work, learn the skills so that you can seamlessly integrate your brain with your hand, right? And if you look at this here, you can see on my hand, I have a 77 on my hand. See, I was born with that. And I was born in 77, see? So interestingly enough, the mind, you do these drawing exercises when you're a young artist, and you're in school, you're in classes, whatever. You do these drawing exercises where you're drawing and you're not looking at the paper, okay? And what that does is it connects the mind with the hand. And so the first part of initiation is doing the work so that your body becomes a tool. And then the next part is connecting yourself, or doing this in conjunction with the fundamentals. You connecting yourself with your guides, whoever is there to guide you, whoever is your sort of, as Sheila said, your oversoul or your guide. I loved Sheila's presentation the other day. You got to connect with your guides. You got to connect with whoever it is that's guiding you, whoever it is that's feeding you information. And in that way, you'll become sort of like this filtering, mechanism, and this sort of channel for new ideas. It isn't just about perpetuating old ideas, in my opinion, but you got to have the skills, and then you got to learn how to connect with the guides that are guiding you. And then you can seamlessly bring new ideas into the world.
Well, just read a comment here. Your drawings, they awaken the resonance of lost vibration of our way of living, from feeling, connecting to source, using our precious body, mind, soul. That's one. You got a lot of great comments. But what do you learn? Like, as you do this and you're connecting, what's the kind of downloads coming into your brain besides the actual, manifestation of the art? What are you learning about existence, in a sense? Yeah.
I'm learning that I need to be open to new experiences, that I need to be open to new personalities, that I need to be open to the fact that I may not do this forever. Like, I need to be open to the fact that I have work to do within Transmigration series. I got to get the Oracle deck done. I got to get the comic book done. I got to get things done. But I'm also open to the fact where I have blocks. That's what's kind of revealed to me a lot of times, is where I'm blocked. I'm blocking myself energetically. I'm open to the fact that I can be a little more compassionate with some of the people around me. But also I'm open to the fact that, wow, there's a lot of like battling and competition in this world. And so as I'm getting these downloads, understand I'm drawing, which takes a lot of time and a lot of work. Creating a piece of art takes a lot of time and work. It isn't just, I'm not just zoned out when I'm doing this. But yeah, it just requires me to, just wake up and do more. Yeah.
But no, I was asking, outside the human realm, what are you getting from the images as far as technologies or bio or sacred, that kind of message? What's coming to you?
Oh, okay. Well, so if you think about the last image that I shared, which was sort of like the image of the soul connection, I think it's the idea that we have this seamless connection between us and source, or us and our guides, or us and other higher dimensional beings that we have an individuated and collective connection with. And so if we're trying to evolve humanity, one of the things that I get is that we need to understand that what we want to happen can happen. And that doesn't mean that you yourself can go build, a machine that creates, energy that isn't polluting the environment. It means that you may be able to create an idea for it, and someone else may be able to create that. And it's this idea that, we don't necessarily need money like currency and the way we've been using it. We can create a society of connectivity, of energetic connectivity, where we develop value through creative endeavors. And that's how we pay each other. That's how we compensate each other. And so the energy connections that I draw and that I share are literally all about that. They're literally all about the fact that you can grab something in metaphysical space, you can bring it into your heart, and you can create something with it. And depending on who you are and your skill set, you can do that. And you can bring people together to do that. But I think we oftentimes think too much about money, and we think too much about the limitations we have because of funding and such. I think you should do what you can within your power, but
can you read some of this? Because you went by a little fast. Can you read some of what you've written in the Transmigration series? Like, if you don't mind, because I wanted to absorb, because I think your writing is kind of goes with the drawings say it all. But your writings add another dimension, like the instructor. I just kind of highlighted some of those ones here, like the instructor series, or whatever you feel to read, because I think that's such a key element to this whole thing you're transmitting.
Yeah, I can actually, if you want, what I could do, I think I have a couple more minutes.
Yeah,
I can share something with you really quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
Because I think your writing is as deep in a way as your drawings. So yeah, share whatever you.
Oh yeah, and I actually shared this with someone lately. I think it's important. Oh, I'm not actually sharing this.
Oh, there.
Right.
Oh yeah. Can you read this in a way? Because it's
in that space of my highest vibrational aspect, I feel them meaning the beings. Okay, the being who connected with me since the earliest moments of my life. I call to them, hoping to break through the amnesic walls, partitioning me off from my soul memories. So we have amnesia. So when you come into a body, there's an amnesia. You're not supposed to remember everything you did. Some people can. Some people can do past life regression and remember things, but you need to get focused in on what you're doing with this life, right? Still misunderstanding the nature of my relationship to them, they speak into me, not impeded by my experiential fog. There is no distance between connections. Conscious entanglements only require the alignment of light frequencies. Remember, we are the same. So what this is essentially saying, this particular being that is this individual's guide. If you look here, the individual light body here in the center that's sort of dancing, that's basically like a human, that's like a human soul, basically. This other being is some sort of guide. Maybe it's one of my alien guides that I draw, or maybe it's something else completely. This idea that your connection with your guides is fundamental to your experience. And guides I've heard that guides change per lifetime. I've heard that some guides stay with you for many lifetimes, whatever. Doesn't really matter. The idea is that if you can align with these energies or these individuals who do remember what you're supposed to do, right, you probably have a better idea of kind of getting going early on, and going and doing what it is you came here to do.
Well, this particular one really speaks to me because I do feel like, oh, there is something I'm supposed to remember. There is this, connection, and it's right there, but somehow I'm grasping at it. But so these pictures connect me to that parts of myself, the guides and the ET realities that we're all a part of. Do you have one more? And then maybe some other people want to ask questions. Maybe Joan, who's an artist, and yeah.
So this one right here is kind of interesting. Ideation mechanics is kind of interesting. A singular idea is accessible to many, but one must locate the idea's frequency to tune into it. Talking about the idea that when you're trying to get ideas, there are many ideas here and there and everywhere. So in my sort of visual representation of metaphysical space and all these energies that are being shared and connected between us, you can grab something. You can just grab it and tune into it, and you can use it. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? Many groups chase after the same idea, but only the visionary can inject new energy into the old idea. So in order to do something with an idea, you need to have an intimate connection with it. That could be, if you're a visual artist, that could be literally sketching pages and pages of that idea and trying to figure out where you want to go with it. It could be playing with different tones. If you're a sound artist, sound music, you could play with different tones. You could play with different keys. You could play with different, combinations. It isn't enough to exploit an idea for profitability. One must intimately understand the idea's intricacies to create a paradigm shift. So with that, what we see in Hollywood, in corporate film production, we see a lot of the same things being done over and over and over again, trying to sort of recycle old ideas and recycle old brands. It's like, you got to create some new stuff, but you can't create new things if the focus is just profitability. There has to be room for the current paradigm to sort of speak to what needs to be said in our current world that has its current issues. And so the artist has to have room to not be so confined to it needs to be done this way or it needs to be done that way.
Right. And you're bringing actually the idea of what you're talking about. The idea is actually what you're bringing into form. Hey, yeah. Joan is a great painter too. You have a question or comment for Kamora?
Well, I just want to say something first of all, Kamora. I channel my guides and angels when I paint too, but I had them in these earthly kind of bodies. In fact, if I get off of the screen share, we could see them, I think. No, that's not the right thing. Okay, never mind about that right now. But when I listened to you last time on the last conference, I found myself picking up my sketchbook and wanting to, because you do it in symbols. Okay, so I get that you're bringing in your guides and you're doing it in symbols. Your language is incredible. I really feel that language within your work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just the language, the symbols are merely just encompassing different energetic ideas. It's just another way to do it, just like, how a lot of the Renaissance painters did it by encapsulating things into angels, and they also had their different symbols as well. Leonardo and some of the others had their different ideas as well. So
yeah. I want to take lessons from you. I think that there's something very special. Oh, you can't see that one. See, so I have a completely different style. But the little one was when I said, wait a minute, it's about the energy. It's about the energy. So I understand like that, but you're using both digital and, you're doing a lot of multimedia in your work. So I find it really fascinating, and I would study with you in a heartbeat.
Well, I'm actually going to try to get my YouTube page started. Yeah, I'm going to get my YouTube account started really soon. And I'll actually have tutorials on there as well as sort of like art sort of channeled sessions as well. And so I think that'll be kind of a good space for other creatives like me. Like you've been doing this for a long time too. I'm just one of many. It'll be a really great space for us to talk more, and maybe I could even do some interviews and have you on there and talk about metaphysical art and talk about the mechanisms of how to share energy through the visuals as well. I'm really working on that. I think that's really kind of important. I've had a bunch of other people say, hey, you need to do this, you need to speak more, you need to get your YouTube started, you need to talk more about process. So yeah.
Sweet, and I can have you on my show also. Great work, Kamora, and just your awakening process has been so profound. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
It is so important because, Marshall McLuhan with Observe Media said, it's the artist that is always looking to the future. Most people are looking to the past. The artist is looking to the future. And of course, one of my favorite writers, Terence McKenna, said, if the artist can't find the way cannot be found. So you are showing us the way to this multidimensional reality that we know we're a part of, but here it is visualized. Here you're mapping it for us. This is the roadmap to accessing these realms. Yes.
Right.
I'd like to say really quick too. McKenna had so much to say about art and the role of art in society. I think it's really important to understand that artists, we don't have to adhere to scientific models. Our job is to break the boundaries, to move forward, to give artists to give scientists ideas, to give analytical minds ideas. There are artistic processes that are very analytical and logical as well. It's not that there's all kinds of ways to go about creating something, but it's important to understand that we don't have to answer to scientific methodology at all. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring ideas forward. And when we sort of funnel ourselves into these sort of linear constructs that, your art's got to, this thing you're designing has to look a certain way, like it has to work. It's like, it doesn't have to work. It has to bring the idea forward. It's not just about making your money for your corporation. Okay. It's about giving you an idea so that maybe you can raise your vibration. That's what art is about. Art's always been about that. It's just that in different periods and different time periods, artists have had to, pay the bills in different ways. So that's part of it as well.
Well, you're a true artist because what were you going to say, Joan? Sorry.
I was just going to say something. Your beings, the extraterrestrials you're drawing are so loving. The energy that is portrayed from them makes me want to approach them, makes me say, well, come in here and sit with me also. And that too is very miraculous about your work. It's taking some of the fear of this intercontact and making it so beautiful that I want to get in there right there with you. And that is so inviting in your art.
Right. Well, the thing too, real quick, I know you got to go. The thing too, I want to share with you as well, Joan, is that, what I feel like these beings have revealed to me in the work that they've tried to do through me and that just working with them is that they've kind of gone through everything that we've already gone through, societally speaking. And so they're just trying to impart some wisdom, some ideas. And they're doing it kind of covertly and through like high technology and stuff. And we're sort of like too stupid to realize it, right? But the thing is that, we can use that. We can be inspired. And even if it's just inspiration in general, it's a way forward. It's a really intelligent, creativity is an intelligent way forward because, creativity when done right, it doesn't kill swaths of people. It doesn't manipulate the masses when done in a loving way. So that's just all I have to say about that.
I just want to say thank you. And you are a true embodiment of an artist because this is your passion. It's not like something you're just doing. You embody it. And I also want to say you're going to be one of the stars of the upcoming Starseed 2-day summit. Do you want to talk about what your presentation might be there that will be different from what we saw today?
Well, I was talking to Sheila about this quite some time ago, and I'm thinking about doing something about the blueprint of the individual. So the blueprint of the soul, basically. And so I'll be talking more about the individuated experience and how, maybe more of the mechanics of how one can use who they are and the signs that are there in your life already for you to bring something new and to help people evolve. And so
Right.
I'm going to try to have some new art. I
Right.
may entertain the idea of maybe drawing something during my session. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, that would be great to download something right there at the Starseed Summit. Yes. So everyone watching, sign up for the Starseed 2-day online, first of its kind. I don't think there's been a Starseed Summit hosted by me and Neil Gar and Sheila Seppi and these incredible, not just artists, but these beings that have stepped into their multidimensional understanding and feel their origins are to bridge these dimensions from wherever we've all come from. So it's really going to be exciting. I'm really happy you're there and you're going to plan something brand new for all of us. And if it's not too much work, because I know you're busy, and thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be great. So let's keep doing
Yes,
it, keep learning. Yeah.
I'm so glad I brought you into this community, because these are people who really get what you're saying.
Thank you so much, Al. You know, I appreciate you and I love you very much. And you're amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We'll be in touch. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great.
Thanks so much.